Hello, my name is Troy Roach from the Nicotine Test, and I'm here interviewing Chip from South Carolina. He's going to tell us about his experience with the nicotine patch and any other interventions that have helped him in long COVID as well. So can you introduce yourself a bit?
Thank you, Troy. I appreciate you having me. I'm Chip Larkby. I'm living in coastal South Carolina, down close to Savannah, Georgia. I am a real estate broker professionally and a professional musician, I guess you'd say. I play the drums in a lot of bands, and now that's like my full-time job. I'm 54 years old. I've had COVID in early February of 2021, and have basically been mostly sick other than like a month the whole time.
So in your COVID journey, like what was your worst point or your worst spot?
My absolute lowest point was when I actually started patching. For me, that was at my 2-year anniversary, just about. And at that point, we had moved house, which was a kind of a traumatic. I mean, it wasn't really physically traumatic or anything like that. It just was, with long COVID, it just takes that one little new thing. And that was a new thing. And it was enough to take me from for me, the first 2 years was just a very progressive degeneration. And it was very mentally, I felt like I was just becoming, I just my brain was just shut off. I thought a room of it was closed from the day I got acute COVID, and it just stayed that way and just got worse and worse and worse. So at 2 years, my dominant things the whole time, I had the pain head to toe, all my joints, all the bones that I broke, which were a lot from in sports, all of that constantly it just would not. There was nothing to stop it. That was awful. And then all of the memory and incapability of my brain, it was insane. But so anyway, we moved house. It caused me to have my only crash, real crash at the time. And it was about 45 days of that before I started patching. At that time, I had about 60 symptoms, give or take, but I had all the big, the neurological ones. I had very little physical stuff because I was healthy when I got COVID. So this was mostly all electronic. And the freakiest thing for me was the depersonalization thing, where there was 2 of me for weeks, just the healthy me walking around following the new gimpy me. And that was very unpleasant, very unpleasant. So it was, my wife at that time and my family thought I was basically just going to die at home while they were at work.
Wow.
So I wasn't in the best place at the time, so it stunk. And I just happened on not the Renegade site, but I found another group at the time that turned me on to the whole nicotine thing, which we can talk about whenever.
The main thing I guess I want to cover in the video is your experience with the nicotine patch. So your dosing, how you adjusted on the dose, how you reacted at first, any negative side effects you had.
Okay. Well, when I discovered this, obviously my mental capacity was pretty diminished. And I was just sitting in bed, throwing the poop at the wall, hoping something would stick. And I found Marco Litsky's research. And at the time, I saw a couple of posts somewhere from people that said they tried it, and it was helpful. And I just was like, okay. I ordered my first batch from Amazon because I couldn't get out of bed. I just feel like it was a gift from God, honestly, because at the time, I was hopeless. I ordered patches from Amazon. I ordered the lowest dose I could find, which was 7 milligrams, and it showed up, and I put it on. And then it actually took me a couple of days really to figure it out, because I couldn't get them to stay on me.
Yeah.
Like some stick and some don't, and some stick to some people, and I just wasn't that sticky. So for me, the first few days were really more like a trial,
Mm-hmm.
like you probably stuck for a couple hours or whatever. Just looking back on it, but
Yeah.
from the first 24-hour cycle
Mm-hmm.
until I felt cured was about 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from everyone in my family expecting me to be dead to normal
Wow.
in a week. I kept them on 24 hours a day. I
Yeah.
didn't do anything. And at the time I hadn't really been eating for 2 years. So I was, I'd wasted away,
Mm-hmm.
and I physically was not feeling that great, but I woke up and I like instantly, the second I woke up, I was like, I feel good.
Yeah.
And anybody that has this knows that it's like, we don't feel good ever. Even
No.
when things are as good as they can be, it's not really good
Yeah.
by a normal person standard, But
Yeah.
I
I
woke
know.
up, and because I had so many joint and bone pains and creaks, and I'm, as an aside, this might be important for you. I'm extremely flexible, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not double jointed. So
Okay.
the Alos, what is it? Ehlers-Danlos?
Yeah.
Ehlers,
Hyper
yeah,
mobility syndrome.
right. So
Yeah.
my mom has that gene.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very stretchy. All of my joints have killed me this whole time until the patch treatment. And the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing about it is that I was starting to have joint dislocations.
Yeah.
Like my arms were just falling out of my shoulders for
Mm.
no reason,
Yeah.
randomly, for the 2 worst months for me
Yeah.
preceding the patches. And all of that stopped, like immediately. Everything stopped. I was so stunned by
Mm-hmm.
the transformation. It was just freaky. It literally freaked me out. But I walked out of my house and I could smell stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't lose my smell or taste, but
Mm-hmm.
we, moved into a new house, and I found a flower that I could smell, and it just made me fall like a baby on this patio that I'm sitting on. It just was
Yeah.
such a transformational experience.
Wow.
I don't think that anyone has to have that experience, but I'm
Yeah.
glad it exists.
That's an amazing. It's an amazing story. So you patched for a week and then you stopped patching, or how long
I
did you
didn't,
continue?
no, I did not. I, my objective at the beginning was to go for a month
Yeah.
and just track it
Mm.
locally and see what happened, because I was not finding a lot of experience
Mm.
write-ups anywhere.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing I in I
Mhm.
could not find any kind of information on Google
Yeah.
about anything pertaining to long COVID or COVID or nicotine that
Mhm.
was even remotely correct, right?
Yeah.
So there was very little anywhere that I could find about nicotine, how people had used it therapeutically, and blah blah blah. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'll just be the test dummy, and I'm just going to do this. Because I felt so icky, I, like most of us, had spent a big amount of money on every over-the-counter everything,
Yeah.
all the everything.
Like
And,
everybody.
nothing helps us. Nothing makes you feel better. Nothing. So
Yeah.
after 2 years of that, I just felt so bad. I was like, why? So I had already quit everything,
Mhm.
including daily antihistamines and aspirin, the pain relief, all the vitamins, everything that the government said we should do, blah, blah, blah. So
Mhm.
I quit all that, still felt the same. And so after about a month of that, I then did the patch thing, and it was amazing.
Well, when you were using the patch, were you on anything else as well?
When I did the patch, so I did it for 30 days,
Yeah.
and it was off while I showered, and then I put it on immediately after the shower. I also was taking, because at that same time, actually a few days before I learned about nicotine in general, I
Mhm.
read about possibly an antihistamine route being something that could help. And I didn't have insurance at the time. So all I could really do was to over-counter the thing. And so I did Claritin in the morning, a Benadryl at bedtime, and my regular sleep routine includes melatonin and Unisom, right? So I just continued that and did the 2 antihistamines, no other supplements, no painkillers, no aspirin, nothing.
Yeah.
That's it. I did that for 30 days. And then at 30 days, I stopped the patches and continued with the antihistamines, and then did that for a month. And there was no observed change, right? So then I quit the antihistamine cold, and still no change. So, for me, it just seemed clearly like what made the difference for me was the nicotine patches. And then once I got out of that first month, after being sick for 2 years, I this is just anecdotal, but I feel like all of my systems were just depressed and not functioning, right?
Yeah.
So to me, like the nicotine patch is like a master switch that just provides energy to all the little subsystems, all of which are broken after so much time, right? So at first, once I got rid of like 50 of my 60 symptoms and was clear enough to know when I was actually feeling something. See, when we're super, super sick, it's just all masked.
Yeah.
It just all blends together. But once most of my symptoms were gone and I could stand up and talk and hold things, it became very clear that there was a pattern of symptom reoccurrence. And there were 2 things that caused my symptoms to come back. And so for a while, it acted like an autoimmune disease, or maybe it still does a little. But over the last 16 months, after that 30 days, I only have passed if I knew that I was physically going to be overdoing it. Like if I had 9 shows in 3 days or something, or had a bunch of physical extra work to do. So like I knew that was coming, so I passed. And then if I obviously I have daycare children, so I get every germ that God creates, all of them come to my house, all of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them would cause my few remaining symptoms to come back, but they come back in order for me. And so it took me probably 2 or 3 months after that 30 days to see what the pattern was. And by then I figured out, okay, every time I get a sniffle, every time my daughter has a sniffly nose, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I sense something coming, I put a patch on for sometimes just 1 day, sometimes 3 days. And whatever that cold is, it doesn't bring back my long COVID symptoms now, because I figured that, okay, I have this pattern and it works. That's what my treatment is. I still take only supplements if I'm actually sick. Like if I actually get a cold, I take vitamin C and magnesium, and I've started taking aspirin because my blood is like paste usually now, unless I do aspirin. That kind of keeps it liquid.
Yeah.
But after the patches, I really have chosen to do as little else. I haven't changed my diet. I haven't changed anything. No fasting, nothing weird. Like if my body wants to eat, I eat. If not, not. It's just I do whatever, but I'm not adding medications or supplements or anything, because I'm really trying to see what I can benefit I'm seeing from this nicotine. And to me, it's super clear. I wish that I still had that executive function. That's like the one thing that's missing for me. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's all right.
So that particular component is the one I could live with. Everything else in my current state right now, like I haven't had the shakes for a month, right? For like a whole month out of 3 1/4 years. I basically have felt like I had Parkinson's with all the shaking and twitching and seizure type things. It's been, it's freaky. But for me, like, it's 2 or 3 weeks where you don't have most of your symptoms. It's like, it's so awesome.
So have you ever thought about like going on the patches again for a longer term to see if you get more benefit? Or
I actually recently have been thinking about that because I feel, again, it's been 15 months, 16 months. All of March 2023 was when I did the 30 days. And it averages, my patch use averages about 3 a month. So 3 patch days a month, which isn't a lot, but it seems like every time I do the patching, it really does help me a week later feel better.
Yeah.
And like this week, I've slept great for a week, like dead great sleep, which is a hard thing for us. And that's only because I probably patched just for the last cold that she gave me. It took a lot. My whole thing about the nicotine patches, now that I'm this far out from the original thing, is that based on the reading that I have done, and I read every post that goes on all of these groups. I'm in like 4 or 5 groups, every single post, every single day. There are more positive posts about nicotine than any other treatment, hands down. And in my own circle, the people that have used it that I know directly have seen tremendous benefit from it. And I think, based on my experience and how I feel right now with it, if I had done this immediately, if I had done this when I had COVID, I don't think I would be this messed up. I don't think I would be messed up at all, truthfully, because I've patched through every illness that my family has gotten and have felt so much better than I should because of, whatever anti-inflammatory secondary things it's doing, whatever it is. It, for me, the whole journey I would not be here. I'm sure that I would have either killed myself or something, what happens. We just feel so bad, right? And it was such a huge thing, but I feel physically good now where I didn't a year ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's actually a study showing with mice. It's not in humans, but they had 3 groups of mice, and the control group, and then the group where they gave them nicotine before giving them COVID, and then the ones where they started giving them nicotine after they gave them COVID. And it was proportional. Like the neurological damage in the ones without nicotine was the worst. And the neurological damage in the people who had nicotine before they got sick was the least. And then the ones that were in between, that started the nicotine after they'd already gotten sick, they were kind of in between. They're not as bad as the worst, but not as good as the ones that had prevented.
I feel that though.
Yeah.
Like as I have daycare kids, so they're sick all the time, all year. I mean, there's not a way. Plus, I play in big crowds of people, and I'm around a ton of people all the time for the job. And it's like the patches have been they really have helped. There is a physical benefit. I believe it, because that's what my personal use since that initial patching, like since my head is clear and I can feel and see what's happening now. When I get sick, I put a patch on for 1, 2, 3 days, whatever that is. It almost never really turns into a cold from it or any kind of a sick. I don't get flare up. I don't have crashes that I don't earn. Like if I know I'm going to overdo it and I don't patch, I feel it now. But for me, that means like my muscles get sore like 3 days later, but that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't crash now because I am managing my whole existence between pacing, which I still do, and I couldn't, I don't think, be where I am right now without. So like the nicotine patches got me electronically to a point where the systems at least had enough power to start repairing themselves. And
Yeah.
I feel like my body is definitely, like, I'm fat again. I was super skinny because I lost all my muscle mass and, just was wasting away, not eating, or like
Hmm.
if I ate something, it just basically squirted right out my butt. So, 2 years of that,
Yeah.
you're not going to get fat. But now I'm
Yeah.
getting fat. Like all the stuff just flipped. The nicotine just flipped the switch, and all the freaky, like, psychological stuff and the fight or flight that, people have, the heart palpitations and the breathing issues, which I have. I have all that dysautonomia type stuff, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't interfere with my normal day
Hmm.
because of the combination of the patch and pacing.
Hmm. That's good.
Yeah, like my autoimmune reaction to things is normal now.
Next question. What advice would you give to people who are starting the nicotine patch?
I am a low and long kind of guy,
Hmm.
so I do see a lot of people trying it, which I feel like somebody has enough symptoms that are generally acting like long COVID symptoms, the brain fog, the pain, and the kind of electronic neurological type things, not
Hmm.
the physical lung problems or that kind of stuff, but the neurological electronic stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody that's presenting, I feel like they should try the nicotine patch. Honestly,
Mm.
I feel like the first thing any of us should be doing is that immediately. Like as soon as you
Mm.
get COVID, put the patch on and just leave it on for 2 weeks
Yeah.
or whatever. And if that means like just, you know, a, a dose that's too high feels terrible. Like
Mm.
too much, even I've tried a 14 milligram patch just to see what it felt like.
Yeah.
And within an hour, I was dizzy and sweating even more than normal and felt like I was going to throw up. Those are
Yeah.
not symptoms that we have normal. That's not,
Mm.
I mean, we have every symptom of everything, it seems like, but those are not symptoms that long COVID presents with normally. It
Yeah.
doesn't just suddenly come on like that, unless it's like adrenaline, like pots kind of type, that makes you want to bark. But you don't get those overdose type symptoms. Dizziness, hot, if it just comes on super suddenly, that's too much nicotine. And
Yeah.
so many people are putting posts up, hey, I did this, I felt this way, so I quit. Those people are going to stay sick forever.
Yeah.
Put the lowest, take a 7 milligram patch, like a Nicoderm patch that can be cut, and
Hmm.
cut it. Or
Hmm.
leave the backing on it, put a low dose on, leave it on for 24 hours, and put another one on for 24 hours, and another one, at least for a couple of weeks. A nice steady dose of any kind at
Hmm.
first. I
Yes.
don't I don't have, honestly, enough experience with the higher doses to
Hmm.
know yet if there's like a perk to going over that edge with the
Yeah.
dose. And if there is, and somebody finds out that that's the case, I'll do it. I will feel like crap to feel better. But
Hmm.
I, you know, nicotine, of the three things that I see posted most about where people actually feel better after the treatment, nicotine is the cheapest. It is certainly the most comprehensive in the volume of symptoms that it seems like it can help manage.
Yeah.
And like the side effects are nothing if
Hmm.
you understand kind of how the whole thing is working. It's like I didn't really have a reaction to it because I was already feeling so bad. Like
Hmm.
if you're in a crash and you're super sick, you're probably not going to feel sicker. I mean, truly, I mean,
Yeah.
when I did these patches, I honestly would have cut off a limb
Mm.
to feel any bit better, even if it was just a little, you know? It's
Yeah.
just that's how it is for a lot of us. And I think the biggest piece of advice is don't stop. Put the patches on and leave them on. They're 24-hour patches. They deliver a very small amount over 24 hours. There shouldn't be side effects from the dose.
Mm.
What you will feel at first, if you're not feeling completely like dead, like I
Yeah.
would, you will probably feel like an immune response because whatever the patches are doing, it's creating something downstream where virus parts or something is getting into your system and your immune system is trying to act like an immune system and get it out. So whenever that happens with a cold or whatever, you
Yeah.
feel sick. So
Mm.
that is a normal response. And you're going to be tired because you're feeling sick, you know? So that kind of leads into the second part of why I feel like I can function. And I'm very functional for us, but I'm still really only like half of my old self,
Mm.
like um, before we started the recording part of the interview, I mentioned that I'm a real estate broker,
Mm.
which I have done my whole life, but it's a brain thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of background busy work and communicating that happens. And that whole thing for me it's just gone, like 100% gone, still gone, even after all the success I've had with this treatment.
Mm.
But I have been a two career person, so like a workaholic kind of. So I had my day job and I picked up a hobby that turned into a career. So now
Mm.
I'm also a full-time drummer. So I play
Yeah.
drums live here outside where it's a million degrees all the time and play all year. So sometimes I might play once or twice a week, but sometimes I might play like 10 3-hour shows in a week,
Mm.
which is, it's a lot of physical stuff, but I don't
Yeah.
think about it at all. Like there's no thinking. It's just muscle memory for me.
Yeah.
I could play the drums all day. I
Mm.
could play the drums all day. So like the nicotine for me, huge. It was huge. But
Mm.
after the nicotine, I also decided I was just not going to let stupid stuff bother me anymore.
Mm.
Like I'm just not. And
Yeah.
that was a big, big thing. And I forced myself to take every Monday off because I
Mm.
know that my schedule is weekend busy. So I
Mm.
take Monday off and I hide. And I learned how to play the bass
Mm.
while I was just sitting doing nothing. And it's really like teaching a 1-year-old how to play the bass. 3 years of of whatever it's done to my brain has made it super hard to learn. Is what it is. But the
Yeah.
resting, like dedicated 1 or 2 hours a day, even if I don't nap, for four days a week, I do that.
Mm.
And then I patch if I need to. And if I'm feeling like really weird, I will sometimes do a little aspirin and stuff. I don't do any weird diets or nothing
Mm.
really.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
have, these kids, even if I could sleep, they wouldn't let me. So
so maybe in the future you'll try some other like another longer round of nicotine to see if you can improve
I'm
on the
interested.
mental part.
I
No?
am. I was thinking about that like over the last couple of weeks. I thought maybe I could try this. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of because my wife caught COVID a couple of months ago,
Mm-hmm.
which, the current version of it, it's nothing like the version that we got, but
Yeah.
she, she still has all the same dopiness that all of us experience, it seems like, with all of the different strains.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to encourage her to get on a patch routine. And so today for her, it's her second day on a real
Mm-hmm.
low amount. And we'll just see how that goes for her. Maybe it will help her a little bit.
Oh,
But because of that, I've been thinking, okay, maybe I should try this, maybe another month of it or a couple weeks straight or something, it has no side effects for most of us.
mm-hmm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth, it's worth a try to see if you can get more benefits, since
I agree.
most people seem to need a few months actually to really
Yeah.
maximize benefits. And
Yeah. I mean, I've done pretty well considering that I've done almost nothing
mm,
else, right? Other than napping and just taking a mental position that I'm not going to let petty things make me overly concerned, you know? It's hard though. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't been treated already with this patch, you know? I'm looking forward to learning more about what else it can do. I'm looking forward to seeing, I think there should be some research about those of us that have responded to the patches and
mm,
those that haven't responded to the patches. You know,
mm,
it seems like for the most part, somebody that presents with the symptoms that I have only is
yeah,
going to respond favorably somehow. It might take long, it might be quick, but they'll respond. The physical issues that people have, that's
mm,
another thing, you know, and that's really not what this is for. But I feel like there are some lingering, like if the mitochondrial muscle thing is something that turns out to be real,
mm,
if that can be reversed somehow, that would be great. You know,
mm,
my muscles came back and acted
mm,
like they used to, I would I would be a lot happier about it.
mm,
But I'm willing to try the patches. I'm willing to try almost anything, but
mm.
nothing right now has more positive results based on like firsthand users than nicotine. Low dose
Yeah.
naltrexone is seemingly doing excellent,
Mhm.
and the SGB seems to help too. And like you were, the powder creatine,
Yeah.
I'm very interested in seeing where that goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm just testing it out, and I'm also in a Facebook group for ex endurance athletes with long COVID.
Right. Well,
So
see, I'm in
like,
that group too because I used to do that,
yeah.
but with mountain bikes and gravel
Mm.
bikes and endurance, like 12-hour races.
There seems to be there's one of the theories is that people who did endurance sports have more nicotinic receptors, especially in the muscles.
Uh-huh.
So our muscles are more damaged by the virus than other people as well.
Huh.
So so it's actually kind of it seems to be like the more endurance type of sports you did in the past,
Hmm.
kind of like the worse the long COVID is. It kind
Right.
of seems you would think it would be the opposite, like, oh, you're in shape and you could
Right.
exercise for 12 hours and run up a
Right.
hill. But
Yeah.
yeah, for the way that the virus attacks the the nervous system and the muscles and everything, it just makes it worse, I think.
It's unfortunate because I hadn't ridden my bicycle
Mm,
until like 2 months ago since
mm,
I got COVID. And I was a state champion mountain biker racer
mm,
here and also like a runner up in criteriums and regional
mm,
championships on road courses and such. It was like I was so competitive. And now
mm,
just like riding my bike on this circle in front of my driveway with my baby, like
mm.
at baby pace, it still hurts my muscle.
Yeah.
It's crazy how this affects stuff,
Mm,
things that were so like you just take everything for granted, like cutting your grass or riding a bike or
yeah.
picking like I couldn't pick my own kids up for
Mm.
months because of this.
But now you can drive, I
Yeah,
assume. Yeah.
everything's fine now.
Yeah.
I mean, I still get brain scrambles now.
Mm,
Like last weekend, I had I mean, I play on the beach a lot and it's literally 100 degrees here all the time and sunny. So I had one of those days where I just happened to be playing for 8 hours in
mm,
the sun. And at the end of the night, like once the show was over, I just stood up and I started doing my normal routine, and then my brain just scrambles. And I would liken this as like you have a bunch of like fruit in a blender just sitting there in the blender, and like everything is fine and all things are cool, but then all of a sudden somebody turns the blender on and it just goes, and all the fruit's still in there being fruity, but it's just not, like, the orange is no longer the orange. I couldn't wrap my cables up. I couldn't like I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like I went
But
from
I think
normal to
that,
like,
but to be fair, I think that would happen to anybody who's been out in the sun for 8 hours and 100 degrees.
well, I don't disagree with that, but I'm conditioned for it, right?
Mm.
So it's normal for me. Like that's my normal life. And it generally, that would not be a thing where my brain would just go from normal to like dementia.
Yeah.
And that, like, the episodes are not, they don't last for me, but they're very short now. And they're very, it doesn't just happen randomly. Things only happen now because, I'm overdoing it and I'm not prepared. Like I did patch. I wasn't, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
for me, it's very predictable. Like there's a pattern for all of this stuff. It's not perfect. I would totally do still almost anything to get that missing little bit back.
Yeah.
And, but I could not be more grateful for the patches,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, okay. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your story with other people. Also, give some hope and as well. And also, because you were also one of the early adopters that was just experimenting blindly, and now all the people on the Facebook group can learn from the first people who made all the initial mistakes.
Right.
They don't
I
have
mean,
to
I feel
suffer
like
like we did.
I lucked out, honestly. I
Yeah.
feel like I lucked out, but I did it, and I don't have any question that
Mm.
it was the nicotine patch that did this work for me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably some other stuff that I could do
Hmm.
that could help. But if I continue on this path with just occasional use
Hmm.
as needed, I can't really do my day job, like the brainy stuff. It just doesn't work anymore. I can
Hmm.
still do my music stuff. And that's fine. I'm sure I could do whatever else I needed to if I have to now. But
Hmm.
I did not feel like that a year and a half ago. I
Yeah.
felt like my life was just over.
With the right little brain training tools, you can kind of help improve pacing of the mental part, and
Uh-huh.
then be able to do more and more mental activities.
Letting go
Mm.
has, it's been a challenge, but it's necessary, I think.
Yeah.
That honestly, my personality has changed so much.
Well, is there any other like advice you would want to add to other people for your journey?
My only parting comment is really that I go back to the nicotine. I feel like everybody that has these symptoms should try it before they do anything else, because
Yeah.
it it has created an opportunity for other things to help,
Hmm.
right? It's like the supplements, some of them don't even get absorbed in our systems because the long COVID is messing stuff up. So absorption's wrong. You're getting too much of something and not enough of some others. And this has allowed my body to self correct those kinds of things. So now if I actually get a cold and I take vitamin C, I, my body reacts to that like it should react to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it, it's an, it's an imperative first step. And same with like the mental stuff, right?
Hmm.
Or just learning to let go and the pacing. None of that is beneficial if your
Hmm.
brain is firing like it's being chased like by a lion, right? If that's constant, without fixing this, you can't fix any of this.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's such an important step. And there's so much crazy wrong propaganda. And so many people still are like, I can't do this because I'll be an addict. And
Hmm.
these are people that are taking like 52 prescription medications that all have terrible side effects, including death, terrible stuff, which it's just, there's a ton of information out there about this. It is a very helpful thing. My dad is a Alzheimer's person. It helps him
Mhm.
a ton. And like, if I get in the whole dementia kind of phase, you know, where if I overdo it, the patches helps so much with that kind of stuff. Parkinsonian symptoms, you know, like if it weren't in America, nicotine is like a swear word.
Yeah,
So,
around
and,
around the
and,
wor- around the world.
and doctors don't earn anything from it. So there's
Mm.
zero support from the government. There's zero support from the medical community here, at least.
Mhm.
And it's literally the most successful treatment anybody can use at the moment. And
Yeah,
anybody can do it because it's cheap and it's available at gas stations.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
anywhere.
it's like such a weird world that we're in. It's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Well, it's been nice talking to you. Thanks
I
for
appreciate you.
taking the time, and thanks a lot. And if something else happens in your LongCovid journey, then maybe we can do another interview later on if you find
I
another
would I
if
would
you
love
do
it.
another trial,
Yeah,
or if it benefits your wife as well, or somebody.
yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I would love it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
cool.
appreciate everything that you're doing with this site and all this research and everything. It's
Yeah,
life saving for a lot of people. It really is.
yeah, yeah. For the research, also, it's very interesting. I think that even if somebody tries the nicotine patch and they're not a responder, that information is already going to be very valuable for them.
Right. I agree with
I'm,
that. But
I'm not
that needs to be
100% sure
studied.
of I'm not 100% sure of how that information is going to be valuable, but with the data that we have now from more than 200 responses in the survey, we're already seeing some trends pop up, but we're still analyzing the data to look for statistical significance and everything. But
Well,
there are
I hope I
definitely
can help
certain trends.
myself, you know. I mean, I'm just the same as everybody else in this boat, but
Yeah.
you know, I've gone through this now for 15 or 16 months with the patches and, you know, a few other things that I've tried.
Hmm.
And it would seem to me like the idea behind the nicotine, whatever it's actually doing once it's in us,
Hmm.
I don't know what that is yet, but you know, as far as feeling better goes, I feel better,
Yeah.
like way better.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing else other than the patches that is the reason that I feel better.
Thanks for giving me so much time.
It's a pleasure, really. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Troy. Bye. Ciao, ciao.